First question I have, simply this. What does this translation do for the culture, in your own words?
I'll begin.
Okay.
For me, it's being able to share our language with the world. It's gone beyond my dreams of sharing. I love sharing the language, and I do what I can in so many different ways. But this just takes it to such a place, for us to be showcased with such an iconic movie that it inspires. It gives us a new hope that our language will have a space to keep moving forward, because it's very powerful for us, and as a language speaker, it keeps us so connected with everyone and everything around us. And so this movie is a reminder of that.
And speaking about language, was it hard trying to get some of the iconic words such as lightsaber translated into Ojibwe?
That's funny you say that. That was one of the words. Of course, we don't have lightsabers, but we have things. Sometimes we could make new words, but just saying the lightsaber, what it actually is. So our Anishinaabe language is very specific, and we'll tell you what that is. And trying to maintain the space of how English was spoken in the movie was kind of tricky with some of the things, but lightsaber was one of them. And we said waskone mukumat, which is the lighted knife or whatever, which would be a great indigenous name.
Beautiful. Theresa, you're an educator.
Yes.
Did you tell any of, let's say, your students that you're playing Princess Leia? Who was the first person you called?
You know what? We had a confidentiality agreement that we couldn't even tell anybody really. And
Wow.
it was only my closest, few people that I had told that I was even auditioning that knew about it. And so it wasn't until the press release came on, was it June 27th, I believe. That's when I let it out there that I was playing Princess Leia. But, school is closed, so I didn't really get to see any of my students. So hopefully they'll see me, in other means and learn about it. And but the thing is too, even us as the voice actors, we didn't know each other. We never knew who was playing who. So it was so confidential that you didn't even know that.
I knew.
Well, maybe you knew, but we didn't know. I didn't know.
So seeing as though you started this back in May, you spent 10 weeks. What did you learn about each other? I'm gonna pose this question to Ajuawak first.
Sure. Well, I was only there for 2 days of voice work. They just really just kind of got everything into that window of time. And so, it was just really in the booth every day, talking through Han Solo's scenes with everybody. So it was a really interesting experience actually being there, because working in language revitalization and in the Ojibwe language community, every once in a while you come across people that you get to meet and get to know a little bit. And so you meet them in different contexts, and that's always very interesting. So Andeg, who's one of the performers, I think he plays Luke Skywalker. I knew him from a documentary film project that I directed, I think 2 years prior to that at this point. And we just had a quick conversation and just talked a little bit about the language and things like that. And then he took off, and I hadn't seen him until I go to Winnipeg, where I don't live in Winnipeg. I showed up to do the voice work, and he was there, and I was like, oh, it's nice to see you again. And so it was nice to connect about our love of Star Wars, because so that wasn't coming up like offhand randomly in our previous encounter. And then the same with Dennis. I actually was introduced to Dennis's voice before I was introduced to Dennis, because Dennis did the track, the kind of like the test track of the Ojibwe for everything. So I would get, in my preparation, I got clips of each Han Solo scene, that showed up in the original Harrison Ford performance. But then underneath that, I could also switch a little thing, and I could listen to Dennis Chartrand perform it as well. And so it was really nice to get used to hearing the Ojibwe language in that way, and to hear his performance of it, because he's a great performer. And so that I got to use those as pieces of my inspiration when I was coming together to do the thing. And then when we actually go in the booth to do the recording, Dennis shows up, and he's one of our Ojibwe language experts as well. So when I'm doing my pronunciation and doing my performance of it, Dennis is there giving notes and helping me to make sure that I'm getting good Ojibwe language in my performance as well. And so it was really like a moment of like, as soon as I met him and he introduced himself and I heard his voice, I was like, oh, I know who this is. I've heard this man already. And so it was really nice to kind of put the face to the voice, and it was a really nice nice moment for me.
And another question for you, Ajuawak.
Mhm.
As an actor, how is it going from, let's say, doing a role where you're a hockey player on skates to now being behind the microphone, taking direction where all you have is a microphone and you can't use your facial expressions. You just can use your voice to do acting.
Right. Yeah. Well, in that experience in doing Indian horse, I did some ADR as a piece of that as well, which is just, pretty common occurrence for anybody doing a film. Is sometimes the audio needs a little, you need to do a little something to help get the audio there, and sometimes you re-record little sections. And so like that experience doing ADR and films like that was super helpful, because it's really a very similar kind of experience to that. Like you see the sequence, you see that the actor's mouth move, and your goal is just to match that. And when it's you, it's hopefully pretty easy. You can kind of know your own cadence, know how you're going to say this, and you know how your mouth moves. But in this case, you have to. That's your research. That's your preparation. Is you're watching another person and you're learning how they move their mouth, how they exchange, like how they present this information. And so all of that kind of feeds into how you eventually perform the thing. So it was a lot of prep for me was watching Harrison Ford in all of the Star Wars movies as well as other movies as well, like, which is the greatest job in the world as an actor. And just like, sorry, I'm working today and I'm just going to watch 3 Harrison Ford movies back to back. So it's like, it's really nice prep to do that. And you just really hone in on what he's doing and when he's doing it. And then you get in the booth and you're like, okay, like this is going to go like this. This is how he says it. I'm going to try to match that with my Ojibwe. And thankfully, I had a good team around me. So, Dennis was there to help with the Ojibwe, but also Ellen Stern, who's our director. She's done a lot of projects like this, including doing the Ojibwe Navajo project, or sorry, Star Wars Navajo project a few years ago. So she's, experienced in working with Indigenous people doing this film project specifically. And we just had a good team to make this really all click together. And that's all it really comes down to in filmmaking is, it's never just one person. It's always a team making a thing happen. So I was really grateful to be surrounded by people who really could help.
And Dennis, seeing as though you're Darth Vader, seeing as though you help with the translations, seeing as though, you oversaw a lot of this project, but question for you, when you're at home and you're relaxing, now that everything's over, do you ever just sit there and say, I'm going to try using the Force just one time?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, I practice, or I'm learning, and I'm blessed to be able to have access to our traditional ceremonies. We're taught that. We're taught the iconic, the "May the Force be with you," because you deserve it. You belong there. It's yours. You come from there. Like those kinds of things are taught to us. And so with this movie, just that term alone really, really moved me to just connect. So even right now, I'm moved by all of us. We're all connected to the Force. We're all there together. And so this movie kind of shows how Indigenous people are always expressing or that, you know, those kinds of things in our connection to protecting the land, the water. So we're like the rebel cause, you know, in the movie against the colonial ways of the empire. And so it's just a blessing overall for all those kinds of things to fall into place. And it's like magic. And I always feel blessed on any language project that I do. And this one to be there, it's still like unbelievable until I guess we'll see the movie. But just how things fall into place when you believe in the force, you know, in the greatness of yourself or ourselves, you know, that in a humble way, that great things will happen for us. So what a great saying, you know, for the movie to say that, to remind us of that.
Last question to you, Theresa.
Mhm.
The movie opens up on August 8th, and you are Princess Leia. And let's say a little girl comes to you, a little Indigenous girl comes to you and says, "You're Princess Leia." What would you say to that little girl?
I would say yes, and I am Princess Leia, and you could be somebody like Princess Leia as well. You know, you just have to believe in yourself. And you know, I just, you know, just want to inspire the youth that our language is still alive, and there's benefits to learning our language, and because it holds our worldview and it holds our oral histories, you know, and I don't know if people quite understand the extent of that. Like I do a whole class around
I
that.
just want to say thank you to everyone, and may the force be with you.